Good evening.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Could we all rise and salute our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have the roll call, please.
Miss Doherty.
Here.
Miss Fattacante.
Here.
Mr. Leahy.
Yep, here.
Mr. Leary.
Here.
Miss Martin.
Here.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here?
Mr. Conway.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. If we can have a motion to adopt the minutes of the last meeting and place them on file by Ms. Connie Martin, seconded by Mr. Leahy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The minutes are accepted and adopted. Memorials. We could have a moment of silence with darkened chambers.
It should be permission to
Excuse
enter first. Should be permission to enter first.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Permission to enter?
No permission to
No,
enter,
no,
Your
no.
Honor.
None,
permission to
okay,
enter.
none, okay.
So we could have a moment of silence with darkened chambers for Patricia A. Martin, mother of former mayor and current city council member William F. Martin, and Frank W. Miller, member of a prominent Lowell family. Please rise. Thank you.
There's nothing on there tonight, you know. She can't see the meeting.
I just want to briefly touch on subcommittee assignments. Everyone has their assignments, and I worked extremely hard to please and appease everyone, and I think everyone is happy with their assignments for the next 2 years. And hopefully we can all work together in peace and harmony and make the school district a lot better. Public yes.
Your Honor, I was just going to ask for, I'm spacing on the word.
Ms. Doherty, yes.
We do have people in the audience who would like to speak, and I
But-
want to ask for a
Suspension of the rules.
suspension of the rules. I'm sorry, I
Well-
forgot the word.
Wouldn't that fall under public participation?
Well, they hadn't signed, it's not on the agenda what they want
signed up, Your Honor.
No, that's,
to
that's
allow
fine.
them to speak.
Yeah.
That would be my motion, to suspend the rules to allow public participation.
Motion to suspend the rules by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Leary. All in favor of the suspension, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The suspension is in order. Anyone who'd like to come forward, public participation, come to the microphone, just give us your name, please.
Hi, my name is Tony Sushel. I'm a 10-year resident of Lowell, and I have 2 daughters in the Bailey School. And I'm here to speak about the 2 proposals for the screening committee for the superintendent search. And I was very discouraged to find about the apparent disagreement between the school committee representatives and the inability to work out a compromise, especially when I saw very little substantive difference between the 2 proposals. I feel there are many other issues and many other constituencies who should be considered and represented on the screening process. First of all, I'd like to address, which I know other people have before, the issue of minority representation. You may recall that the 2 proposals suggested that there would be 2 CPC, Citywide Parent Council representatives, and 1 would be a minority parent. I find that this sort of idea of minority representation may have worked in the 1960s or 70s, but it hardly seems up to date to the population of Lowell and the population of our schools. I also think there are other important issues of diversity that need to be addressed on the committee. Why do we have 2 representatives from the Lowell business community proposed and only 1 teacher? I believe there needs to be more teacher input, more teacher representation. There should be principals, a principal representative. There should be representatives from special education, school social worker perhaps, special needs parents, Why not the athletic department? There are a lot of other constituencies here, and I think these two proposals do not reflect the diversity of voices that need to be heard in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Your comments will certainly be brought forward to the subcommittee. Anyone else who'd like to speak on any issue? Do you want to speak on something, John? Well, it's their turn, okay, at the microphone. Public participation, anyone else like to speak? Okay, their portion of the meeting is closed. Mr. Leahy?
All right, thank you. I'm sorry I was going out of order there. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to say for myself that last week's motions that were proposed are, I just want to let everybody know that those motions are just kind of, I guess, what you would call a boilerplate. We haven't really even discussed them yet. So we understand what you're saying. We heard the comments last week. But that's what the subcommittee will be about. We'll discuss who's going to be on the search committee. It could be 9, it could be up to 16, it could be 7 people, but that's what we're going to discuss at the next meeting. And it's not set in stone by any means. So I just want people at home and people here to be assured that if you can attend the subcommittee meeting, that's what we'll be discussing, and we'll work that all out then. So by no means we're set with 2 people from the business or 3 people from this and leaving out a teacher, leaving out a principal. But so if you can make the subcommittees, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. And actually, just to kind of build on that thought, just so people are aware that the Personnel Subcommittee, which did need to be canceled, unfortunately, this past Monday because of weather, has been rescheduled for next Wednesday evening. That is Wednesday, January 23rd. Thank you very much. I can't be a good sign with my eyes, but that's okay. So it is going to be next Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. We're going to be hosting the meeting at Lowell High School in the cafeteria. We have arranged for it to be taped so that it will be broadcast, and it is a perfect opportunity for our parents and all the other constituencies who have such real concerns about this to be part of that conversation. I would also like to say to my colleagues, what I am hoping to do is to really help us focus when we get into this meeting, to make sure that we do have, I think we've got a great starting point with the combination of the 2 motions. But I would also say that I think in terms of making sure that our meeting does go as smoothly and, again, with as much focus as possible, I would recommend, I know that a number of committee people have some additional concerns, have some additional constituencies that they want to see represented. What I would ask is that if all of the members of the committee could get in touch with me and let me know about specific additions that you'd like to add. I won't be editing them in any way. I just want to add them basically to a list so that we'll all be working from one piece of paper that has what we're all looking for, and then collectively we can decide what the final makeup of this body will be. So I would make that request to my colleagues. And again, as I said, everything you let me know will be put in verbatim, whatever it is you want. I'll share it with everyone beforehand so that as we come into the meeting, we'll all be well-versed and we'll all be at the same starting point, just to kind of help us all with the process.
I mentioned this last week, and I'll say it again this evening. You can rest assured, this is a very important issue, a very important vote by this committee and I. And you can rest assured that we will make sure we dot the I, cross the T, and make sure that whoever is on that panel is going to represent the children and the parents and education in our city. And I want to compliment the entire committee, but point out that committee member Conway and Larry sat down and they drafted some sort of process, and it's a yardstick to go by. And hopefully, when the subcommittee meets Wednesday, we can dissect those motions and come up with something that's sensible, that's going to prove to you that we're going to do our job and do it right, and form a panel of either 9 or 11 people, good people in the community, people who are interested in education, they want to make sure that the new superintendent of schools is the best quality person that's there. So I want to assure you that. And all subcommittee meetings are open to the public. The media will be there, and you should be there. And I know that the chairman of the subcommittee, if you have a question to be posed, they will certainly try to answer that question. So it's going to be, we're all in this together. And it's an important issue. And the education of our children in this city is very, very important. It's the welfare of our city. So that being said, I'll move on with the agenda. Thank you for all your input pertaining to this issue. Reports of the superintendent. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Caulfield. The first report has to do with the preliminary 2007 EQA report. EQA is the Educational Quality Audit, which is done by a state department. Sorry, did you want us to go back to the motions?
No, go right ahead.
The EQA is a state department with its own board that is charged with the responsibility of evaluating district management across the Commonwealth. And veteran committee members will remember that we piloted in 2001 the very first EQA audit. We were the guinea pigs as they started to develop the process of district reviews. Then we had the full-fledged audit in 2004, and then just before the holidays this year, a large team from EQA did its visit to the district, auditing a wide range of material, and you have in front of you the very preliminary report from that audit. And I just thought I would share a couple of highlights. Committee members know that there were 72 indicators that are looked at across 6 standards. Leadership, governance, and communication is one. Curriculum and instruction is the second. Assessment and program evaluation is the third. Then human resource management and professional development. And then access, participation, and student academic support. And then financial and asset management. And 9 out of 10 of the indicators that in 2004 were identified as in need of improvement or poor moved up at least one spot in this since 2004. So that's good news for us. And I think I want to particularly, it's clear right away that one of the areas that a great deal of improvement was made was in Standard 6, the financial and asset management. And I know the committee members have been actively involved in the work done to develop, to insist that we develop a memorandum of understanding with the city about how to charge chargebacks for municipal expenditures in support of schools. There's been a progressive movement toward approaching net school spending requirements on the part of the city. Since 2004, we're almost at the net school spending 100%. And so there are a number of areas that, in that area that were weaker in 2004 that the committee has played a major role, along with, I want to also, of course, compliment Assistant Superintendent Lang, who brought grants management in a whole number of areas into much stronger. So the report appears to be showing a considerable progress in a number of indicators. In the area of assessment and program evaluation, it appears that every indicator we received the satisfactory in. And the draft summary of the general findings concludes that data is at the center of the identification of priorities and improvement planning in the Lowell Public Schools. And of course, that's been something the school committee has been insisting on over the years, that we develop better and better systems for developing our capacity to look at data and use the data for everything from budgeting to program planning to policy setup. Our lowest performance area appears to be Standard 2, curriculum and instruction, where we achieved the satisfactory rating on only 5 of 13 indicators. It appears, although it's too early to tell because until we have all the detail behind it, it's premature, but it appears that our weaknesses in instructional technology, the outdated technology in many of our schools, is one problem, and another problem in that area is that we have limited vertical articulation between, on the one hand, K-8, the elementary and middle schools, and then going into the high school. The lack of articulation between those appears to be the other area that the report identified a lot of needs improvements in. But again, when we get the full report with all the data back up, we'll be able to understand better what they're meaning by those issues. I was delighted for Assistant Superintendent Mulligan that in the area of human resources and professional development, we appear to have gotten one excellent indicator. We don't know which it is yet, but we've been told in the report that we got one. And since in all of Massachusetts, all 46 districts that were done last year, in 2006, it appears that only 7 excellents were handed out. 0.2% of the time, it appears, an excellent is handed out. It's delightful that we've gotten one in Ms. Mulligan's area. So we're all taking bets on which that might be, which indicator that might be, but we're excited to see what that will be. It looks also it looks to be that the MCAS improvement in that 3-year period is moving from 3 out of 10 to 4 out of 10 youngsters earning proficient or advanced, and that, according to Dr. Rappa, the executive director, he has indicated that that puts Lowell as one of the most rapidly improving urban districts. So I think when we get this full report in place, I think it'll be a lot of information that will be very useful in setting goals for the long term. But it does definitely appear that that many of the areas identified in 2004 have been dealt with and have now moved into an area. It would appear, based on the numbers they've given us, of numbers of indicators that are now satisfactory, it appears that the ultimate judgment will be that the management of the district, meaning all of those areas together, will fall in the category of strong, which is their highest category. So I'm very optimistic about the final report and thought I would share this with the committee. In case there are any questions, welcome.
Mr. Leary?
Thank you. Just, it's an interesting initial evaluation, and like you said, a lot of the information will be forthcoming. Just 2 quick questions. One, when do you anticipate that information coming in?
I've been told that we should get it by February vacation.
Okay. One thing that did jump out at me is regarding the human resources issue. It was bullet point number 2. It said the evaluations of half the principals and only a few teachers held them accountable for student achievement. What exactly does that, I mean, does it mean only half our principals are being held? I mean, that doesn't mean that. What is it? The bullet point is kind of...
I'm not sure until I see what the data behind that is, but it could be that they didn't see specific references to MCAS scores in the evaluations. There's a strong bias in the indicators, criteria of EQA, that there be very much a focus on examining MCAS scores, and it may be that those were not referenced in all of the principal evaluations.
So what you're going to get then when this comes, when the backup information, it'll actually point specific examples on whatever issue we may be deficient or where we're exceeding it.
Yes,
Okay.
that's my expectation.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the reports that was brought forward by Superintendent Bear?
Move approval to accept the report.
Move by Ms. Fattacani to adopt the reports, a report of progress, and place them on file by Ms. Fattacani, seconded by Ms. Doherty. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Reports are on file.
The second report this evening is on our...
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Leahy, you have another report, Madam
I
Superintendent?
have just a couple of
Oh.
3 more.
Okay,
The
go ahead.
summer school report for 2007, when we presented that report, committee members asked for a breakdown of cost per student, and so you have that information on the 10 programs that we ran last summer. You have the cost, the number of students who participated, who completed the program, the cost per student, and the grant funding source. The cost per student ranged from a low of $192 per student for the Grade 8 Math Academy at Lowell High School to a high of $809 per student for the special education summer school programs at the McAuliffe and Lincoln schools. As you can see, most of them were in the $300 or $400 per student range. So this is an addendum to the earlier report on summer school. Would welcome any questions committee members have.
Thank you.
Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. Through you to the superintendent. Last year, we had a discussion. I just was wondering if we had looked into running any after-school programs during the school year versus we had kind of just thrown around the idea of doing summer school during the year, and I didn't know if we're still looking into that.
It's not clear what the funding sources will be. I think, over the last several years, as grant dollars have diminished, we haven't known until the spring whether we have enough money accrued in Title I, for example, to be able to actually run summer school. So it's too early for us to know to start a program now. So we really need to wait deeper into the year to know, because you can see many of the programs are funded by Title I.
Mm-hmm.
And those funds are the most discretionary funds that have the least, the fewest restrictions on how they can be spent. So those are the ones that we typically use for our general summer school programs. And it is too early to know whether we will have sufficient money to run either an after-school or summer school program this year. We'll have a better idea a
Do
little
those
bit
typically
deeper.
come in late in the year, or is that just when the final numbers come in?
It's the final numbers. Our Title I budget is affected by how much is drawn for supplemental educational services. Under the federal No Child Left Behind law, families in certain schools of certain youngsters are eligible to participate in the state supplemental educational services program. And the cost for that comes out of the Title I budget. So we pay for the tutorial providers or our own program, and students can, we don't know at this stage of the year exactly how much will be spent in that. That's the wild card in the Title I budget now. It used to be much more predictable, but with the addition of the supplemental education services, the SES program, under No Child Left Behind, it has made it more challenging for us to know early enough what we can count on for Title I monies for our own supplemental services, if
Sure,
you will,
yeah.
our own after-school and summer programs. So we're keeping an eye on that, and we'll as soon as we can have reasonable confidence about what we will have, we'll discuss that with the committee and let you know what the options appear to be.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Conway?
Yes, Madam Superintendent, just for a point of clarification here, the monies for summer school for 2007, do we spend any of the money from our district? Or is this all outside money?
Let me just check about the high school program. Is the high school program Title I?
The high school program, the funding for it comes, part of it from Title I and part of it from an academic support grant from DOE. But all of the funding for the summer school program comes from grant money. Nothing is coming out of the local budget.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions pertaining to the summer school 2007 report?
Motion to
If
approve,
not,
Your Honor.
a motion by Ms. Fattacani, seconded by Ms. Doherty, to adopt the report as a report of progress and place on file. Next report, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, you have the report of the list of eligible teachers, which you receive monthly, and you also have the monthly personnel report, which identifies retirements, resignations, and new hires since the last report. This is provided monthly to the committee.
Move approval to accept the two reports, Your Honor.
Moved by Ms. Fattacani
Second.
to adopt the report and place it on file by Ms. Fattacani, seconded by Mr. Leahy. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
This report is accepted. Personnel report? That's all set?
Yeah, she
No,
put it all
I'm
together.
very sorry, Mr. Leahy. Motion by John J. Leahy, request that the subcommittee on safety meet to discuss the crossing guard hours for the Lowell Public Schools, seconded by Mr. Leary. On the motion?
Thank you. What I hope to do with this motion is sort of housekeeping, I guess. It comes up every year by me, but what I'd like to do is have Mr. Dakota come to the meeting with us. And I'd like to really dig into this because as I've noticed in my travels in the city that some corners that are supposed to be covered may not be. I could be hitting it on a day when someone's ill, but I just want to make sure that the crossing guards are out there. I'd like to get some information on the number of hours they work, what their responsibilities are, and just to make sure that they're there for the kids because as we all recall, the last snowstorm I was driving down Stevens Street in Parker, and I thought there's supposed to be a crossing guard there. There wasn't. The kids are sliding down the hill into the street, having a great time, but I thought I was gonna run one of them over, so, if we could.
Get out and start crossing?
Well, I was almost running them over, so I had to get out of the way. But if we could sit down and really discuss and see who's supposed to be where and what they're doing. As you know, over the last few years, we cut the transportation, which was great, but we just want to make sure we have the crossing guards out there for the kids. So if we could put this to rest, say, this year, that would be great. Thank you.
I just want to say a few words on John Dakota. We should all be happy we have him. Very dedicated employee, does his job extremely well. And we didn't cut transportation, John. We cut the cost of the transportation. That's a huge difference. Every child is still being bused.
That's
We
not,
just,
that's not completely correct.
right? No? Well,
We extended the mileage, so some youngsters are not being transported anymore.
some youngsters are
Are
walking.
not, yes.
Is
More
that so?
youngsters are walking now than before we made the cuts, because what we did, Your Honor, was we extended the mileage to the legal available limit. So when we did that, we eliminated some youngsters from transportation. So some youngsters are not being bused, they're not being transported, they are walking 1.75 miles.
1.75 miles?
Yes.
Is there any way we can, the buses going by these children, pick them up? Or we can discuss that at a later
Right.
point in time,
In
but,
fact, I was just thinking that you did need to call a subcommittee meeting for your subcommittee.
okay.
We
Any
will
other,
discuss that there.
any other discussions on Mr. Leahy's motion? If not, all in favor of Mr. Leahy's motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. Convention and conference request. What's the wish of the body? Move for approval by Mr. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway, on the convention. Go right ahead.
Ask a question for
Go ahead.
clarification? On the convention request, I've noticed that on number 2, number 3, and number 4, I think the financial component is clear. However, in number 1, the financial clarification is not. And I'm a little confused, and I did read the letters, but there seems to be something missing here. I'm not sure where it says there's no cost to the school department budget. How is that? Could you just clarify that, please?
Yes, the participant will be absorbing all costs himself.
Oh, okay, all right.
Motion to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Doherty. All in favor? Well, let's take a roll call. Roll call.
Miss Doherty.
Yes.
I have a heart attack here. Miss Vaticante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Miss Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Is there anything else on the agenda that you'd like to discuss? If not, I'd just like to say just a few words. I attended the girls' basketball game at Lowell High School the other evening. They were playing Andover, and the enthusiasm, the energy, the excitement, the cheerleaders, the fans is what it's all about. And two great teams, and the Lowell girls were victorious. But that's what high schools are all about, athletics are all about. There's that competition, that joy of representing your high school, and those young ladies did a great job, and I'm very happy for one of those students who 1,000 points, and we should make it an effort to bring her forward some, okay? So, with that said, if there's nothing else to discuss, yes.
I have to say one thing. Last week, we did discuss the plowing, so I wanted to say I noticed a big difference. I got a few calls.
I know.
People are very happy. No, calls that the streets are very wide now. The very good plowing job this last storm. Still working on the corners, but the streets were very wide. They did a great job. So I want to say thank you. I ask, criticize when I don't think it's done right, but I want to say thank you when I think it's done, when it is done right. So.
And John, Mr. Leahy, I'm glad you brought that up, because I investigated that every school has a snowblower.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And everyone every custodian should be out there helping us as well on
Oh,
the
yeah.
sidewalks.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the roads, but they can
Right.
help us with the sidewalks. And the gentlemen in DP, men and women in DPW, I mean, they work 18 hours straight behind a truck, and they're pretty well stretched
yeah,
out. So we need some cooperation as well.
Oh, yeah.
With that said, move to adjourn by Mr. Conway. I'm sorry.
And I hate to do, I apologize, but as a point
That's
of
okay.
personal privilege, I just wanted to take one quick moment to say I don't know how many of my other colleagues were able to attend the Community Reader Day at the Lincoln Elementary School last week. I had promised the students, after they had taken about a half hour of telling me all the things they thought I should know about the Lincoln and what I should be able to share with the school committee, how exceptionally impressed they are, particularly with their teacher and with the Lincoln School in particular. But I wanted to thank them all for really a wonderful experience reading to them. Their book, Duck for President, was exceptional, and I had promised them that if they watch Channel 10, they'd have a chance to at least maybe hear me mention them. So I thank all the staff at the Lincoln. It was really, as all of our Community Reader Days, it really was a genuine, very enjoyable experience for me, and I hope the kids did too. So thank you all for that.
Just on that subject, I did go to the Lincoln School and read to the first grade class. And I was really flattered. There were 2 students that asked me if I lived in the White House. And I said, I do, on Princeton Boulevard. And another student asked me, is my picture on the dollar bill? And I said, no, it's not. So with that, yes.
You know, can I just add one other thing? I was also at the Lincoln School too, and for a number of years, I obviously have been at the high school, and I've been used to, should we say, the 15 to 19 to 20-year-old bracket. And walking into the school, everything is small, even the chairs, and I really did enjoy myself. And reading to the 3rd grade, it was quite an experience, and it was amazing. Every one of them listened, so I was pleasingly surprised at that. So they again, well,
Thank you very much.
Thank
Move
you.
to adjourn by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary. Thank you very much for a great meeting.